Welcome back to the Sports Business Take Podcast, your home for sports industry news with a little personality. I'm Paul Hine. He is Zach Creekmore. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing good, Paul. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, dude. Happy birthday. Big 21st?
Oh, yeah. We're here for
Come
it.
on.
We're here for it.
I'm actually kind of surprised that you wanted to record on your birthday. I would have, especially on my 21st, I would have been like, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to take a day off.
I'm not a day drinker. Get going, keep my life moving. I've got a shift at 2. I was up at
Oh, you're working today?
Morning. I was in the pool, keeping it moving. I'm going to hit the gym after my shift. It's going to be a good one.
That's some grinding, man. That's awesome.
That's how I want to spend my birthday. No other way.
Fair enough, dude. That's commendable. I've had a kind of a crazy week. I went to the Red Sox game on Monday night. Student 9 tickets, super cheap. Love those things. Be using them all summer. And then I went to the Celtics game, Game 5, on Wednesday night, where they clinched against the Cavs, and that was so much fun. I'd never been to an NBA game before, never been to a Celtics game before, and my dad's company just was fortunate enough to get tickets, and I ended up getting to go, and I was like, wow, like this is insane. And actually, I think my favorite part of the whole night was I got one of those T-shirts, in the free T-shirt throwing contest thing. I literally just see it fall like from above me, and it just goes, and I look down on the ground. I'm like, oh my god, like the T-shirt just fell from the sky. Yeah, no, literally, it was literally like one of those moments. And the dude behind me like tried to grab it out of my hands. I was like, no, dude, I'm keeping this. And then yeah, that was awesome. And then obviously last night I was talking to you a little bit before. I have officially started my work with my first client for my freelance video work. Northeast Baseball is going to be my first official client, other than like my friend's brother. They are the top club baseball program in Massachusetts. So I'm really excited to work with them. They have a ton of college commits, MLB draft guys. And yesterday I wasn't working with the older teams. I was working with the 12U team for a practice. But it was really fun videoing for them and hoping to keep that relationship up the whole summer, and really excited to do work for them. So definitely been a busy week. Was editing this morning, just released a video from that practice. Go check it out on my media account on Instagram if you want to. I'm a shameless plug. You know that, though.
We're here for it.
Have you started with AC yet?
No. Well, I'm still up at St. Joe's.
Oh, right.
My Seacoast team. I've got some things in the line. We'll see what ends up happening, but it's all hush-hush for now.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I'm going to our opening game against Seacoast United up in New Hampshire this Saturday, so it'll be good to be there. Have a camera guy go with me, so we'll have a good time.
Nice. So, I mean, you could just hire me to do that, but it's okay.
I just see where our women's team is playing, and I might send you somewhere. We'll find out.
Outsource.
I need work, Zach.
I could use the money. Yeah. So I kind of want to reverse, now that I'm thinking about it, since we're talking about you coaching soccer, I kind of want to reverse like the order of what we were going to talk about. You want to do the Premier League first?
Sure, I'm fine with that. Let's do it.
All right. So our first topic today is the Premier League is voting on getting rid of VAR. So do you want to explain a little bit of like what VAR is for those who don't watch the Premier League that much?
Yeah, absolutely. So effectively in soccer, if you ever watched youth soccer, it's the referee's decision and it's cut and dry, right? Yet in professional leagues nowadays for the last 3, 4, 5 years, there has been a system called video assistant refereeing. So somewhere in the area, there's a referee or a series of referees sitting in a room, and as the game goes on, they're able to watch the game and watch live decisions, watch feedback from it, and watch what's actually happening to give the referee on the field decision making and help him or her make better decisions based on the data or the angles they couldn't see. So effectively what VAR does is it goes to overturning decisions if the referee makes a wrong call.
So effectively it's their replay.
Yeah, effectively it is video replay. Exactly the video replay system that's in NFL. They get the thing in the ear and they go and explain the decision.
Yep.
Right, exactly that. That's seen in soccer, right? Which is a bit different because soccer has a lot of rules and it's generally a very fluid flowing game. where the
Right.
NFL has all the stops, soccer does not. So it is seen as somewhat of an interruption, as we'll get into with the Wolves. Wolverhampton Wanderers kind of debating should we have it or not, and where their points are from that.
Yeah.
One of their points from their argument was the fact that it interrupts the game, and we're seeing plus 10, plus 15-minute extra times at the end of games.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. So yeah, like you just mentioned, the Wolverhampton Wanderers have lodged the motion to scrap the use of VAR in the Prem, with a vote to be held at next month's meeting of the 20 clubs. They need 13 other clubs to pass the motion. So my first question is, do you think they'll get the 13 other clubs to vote on this? Are there other clubs complaining about this? Is it just a them thing, or is it a couple of clubs, or is it a widespread thing?
It's a good question, right? And it's a challenging situation, right? Because genuinely, although it's pretty much an extra set of referees, an extra system, it does still see faults be made. As you have in the stats that we'll talk about in a little bit later, it's gone from what I believe an 84% success rate to a 96% success rate in referee decision making, right? Which
Right.
is
Yeah.
12% approval rate, really, honestly, really good. But
Yeah. So it's
what
helping the
ends up
refs.
happening is, and it's in my sports quote of the week later in the episode, there ends up being decisions where referees don't follow protocol or mistakes are made, and now there's even more debate and anger because VAR is supposed to come in and overturn it, and it doesn't, right? Where now there's complaints of, okay, VAR made the mistake, it's VAR's fault, it's the referee's fault, yada, 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 yada. It's given the fans and coaches and clubs more to complain about, which, in some extent, they're going to complain anyway. They're not happy with the decision no matter what. But
Right.
it makes it a difficult thing. So I don't think they'll get the 13 votes personally, because as you see, the numbers support that VAR is improving the quality of refereeing in the Prem and
Yeah.
across the world. But it also, you see the valid points of what Wolves are making, right? It's ruining celebrations effectively because you can't celebrate until the VAR check because you don't know if you're offsides or not, because you could be offsides by your big toe and you're not there, right?
Right. And who can be hyped for like 7 minutes while they're checking the VAR?
It's challenging. So it does hurt the emotion of the game to some extent. My sports quote of the week goes to the Champions League game this past, I think it was a week or so ago now, when Real Madrid were playing against Bayern Munich. And Matthias de Ligt scores this great chest volley into the bottom corner, gets called back for an offsides. The referee wasn't supposed to call offsides, didn't actually end up being offsides, because he had raised the flag, play is stopped. Again, in-person referee decision making, right, where if VAR isn't involved in that, the complaints don't really exist. So it is a challenging situation. I don't see the 13 votes being gotten just because the stats do support the improvement.
Yeah.
But it is a topic that's complained about by coaches like Jurgen Klopp, coaches like Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton, coaches Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace. Even in his short stint there, he's done really well, but you see complaints come through. People aren't necessarily happy with VAR.
Yeah.
But you're never happy with the system because it's never perfect. It's run by people, right?
Right. Yeah. And humans are never perfect. I agree with you that I don't think they're going to get the 13 votes, specifically because I don't think the Premier League is going to allow that to happen. I think they're probably going to try to sway clubs because they're very strongly for having the VAR. And this is a quote directly from the league. The Premier League can confirm it will facilitate a discussion on VAR with our clubs at the annual general meeting next month. Clubs are entitled to put forward proposals at shareholders' meetings, and we acknowledge the concerns and issues around the use of VAR. However, the league fully supports the use of VAR and remains committed alongside PGMOL to make continued improvements to the system for the benefit of the game and fans. So to me, that sounds like they don't want to lose their partner that they're using for VAR, the company that they're partnering with to produce the actual VAR product. Not only that, but they also think that like maybe some of the complaints are a little overblown, it seems like, or that the VAR, like you said, is backed up by enough stats that it can be improved on in the areas that the clubs are complaining about.
Yeah, well said. It is very true, right? No matter what, the league has had this product in place for 3 or 4 years, and it's something that is being adapted and used in many leagues, and I think a lot of fans do use and appreciate it. But the point is, right, the teams like Wolverhampton Wanderers, who technically has been harmed by VAR the most, right? I don't know why balloons are going up.
Because it's your birthday, man. Because
but
the
right.
Riverside knows it's your birthday.
Wolves have been harmed to a negative 17 goal differential based on VAR decisions, right? Which is an actual fact, which is why there's some emotional incentive to it, right?
Yeah.
Penalties happen, penalties get called after decision making, and it creates confusion and all this controversy where it is a really difficult situation, and it's something that a team which has been harmed and sees its performances harmed.
Yeah. They're the
Is
most harmed
frustrated.
team
But
since it was implemented in 2019.
right, exactly. But to the simple fact, well, that's just VAR doing its job. Why are you
Right.
mad about VAR doing its job and improving the quality of refereeing?
Somebody's going to have the most calls against them.
Right, somebody's got to have that. That's just the fact. And to the extent, right, would Wolves be happy if there were bad referee calls that went in their favor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even as a soccer player myself, and I think you in baseball too, like you're like, oh, I know this referee is shit. I'm going to take advantage of him. I was coaching a game, and pardon my French, I was coaching a game last weekend, right? The referee was calling any slight touch from behind the back as a foul. What do you think I told my team to do?
Yeah.
He touches your back, just go down. He's going to call it a foul. Take advantage of it. I had my center back doing that the entire second half, and I'm screaming out to him, Ev, you're a genius. Well done, son. Right?
Yeah.
So there's these things where VAR would then go and help the referee be making better decisions there, where that referee wouldn't be making that same error for the entire game. There wouldn't have been a penalty called for me. It wouldn't have been a 3-2 game. We probably would have won 3-1. No problem.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe one of my kids would have had a red card because he took a to the goalkeeper. But like, to the simplest point, VAR has raised the quality of refereeing in the Premier League. It creates a sense of accountability. But it does put, to an extent, where referees are asked to think differently than they would in any other situation, in any of their training, and it becomes very difficult for them to do so, right?
Yeah.
So if you're refereeing in a league that doesn't have VAR, you probably have more confidence in your decision as a referee, and even if you're wrong, you're going to go and take that chance and make the decision more confidently and more clearly, where there isn't going to be so much debate during the game as there needs to be a VAR check, yada, 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 yada. That's going to add on to this added time or interrupt the flow of the game, which is what Wolves are really claiming is hurting it.
Right. Even with the added time, though, I mean, it does seem to me, based on the numbers that the VAR is helping, not only has it gone from an 82% to a 96% accuracy rate in terms of the calls, but also there have been about 10 less mistakes at this point in the season this year than there was last year in calls. It was about like a 38 to 27 difference or something like that, 29, I think. Which means VAR is helping, right? VAR is helping refs make less mistakes. So I think that's something that the Premier League is going to want to keep because that creates almost less controversy, in my opinion. But I could see why the team who's most affected by it would be not happy about it for sure. So is that the sole reason why you think they would propose this, or do you think there's other motives?
I think the clearest motive is that Wolves feel they've been hurt throughout this season by it, and they know for a fact other teams also have the same thought.
Yeah.
Liverpool have complained about it. Spurs have complained about it. Man City have complained about it. Arsenal have complained about it, right? It's things where they're still refereeing decisions, and referees are still people. Referees still make mistakes. No matter how many more checks or balances are in place, referees are still going to make mistakes. They can't be perfect. Now, the AR has brought us closer to perfect, but that 4% error is still going to piss people off. And to the simple fact, Wolves are trying to take advantage of that and say we shouldn't have VAR because it's going to increase the quality of our league, right? And to some extent, maybe they're right. But here's the problem is now the Prem went and backed this technology. They backed this company, and now it's being adopted by pretty much every other top league. It's in place in the Champions League. It's in place in the World Cup. It's in place in the Euros. The Prem goes and removes this, and now they're different than every other league. And I was listening to a conversation via one of the podcasts I listened to, and they're talking about how the Liga still doesn't have VAR and how that's an outrage, right?
Yeah.
So the Prem goes to not having VAR. Well, now fans are like, well, the Champions League has it. Why doesn't we have it? It's a situation where you can't make anyone happy. So although vote and the conversation of keeping it improving and keeping it growing is really important, and that's what I think really should be the objective here, isn't something that I think should be removed because now the Prem, which is considered the best league in the world, right, is now
Doesn't
going to
have
be
technology that other leagues have.
right. So it's going to put into question, okay, how are you the best league in the world if you're saying we don't need this technology, but you did say that 5 years ago when you were kind of climbing to it. So it's a challenging
Yeah,
conversation.
that's a good point. I just had a random thought. Do you think you like you said that 4% is always going to piss people off? Do you think there's ever a point in soccer, in professional soccer in Europe, where they decide to go to a fully automated reffing system and cut the human error out of it? Because, like, I know here in America, there's certain things that are being considered like robotic umpires for baseball. Do you think something like that could ever go in for soccer, or do you think there's always going to be that human error in there? And not that I'm saying that we should get rid of human refs. I do think that I'm on the side of the human refs. I think we need someone to make those judgment calls,
Hmm.
specifically in soccer. I mean, there's a lot of judgment and subjective based calls. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that's even a possibility?
I really couldn't see it because, and I think as you can see in baseball, right, something happens, you don't have a guy on that field to go and manage the situation, have a conversation with people and explain, right? That's going to hurt the
True.
quality of the game. That's going to hurt what is then the role of a captain, right? I'm very proud I've worn a captain's armband throughout my career at a lot of different clubs that I've played for. And in reality, right, what is the meaningness of that if I don't get to lead my team against calls we disagree with? Or if I don't get to go and
Right.
talk to the referee and be like, hey, what's going on here? What can I, right? There has to be some form of recognition, and human error is part of the game. That's, we talk
Yeah.
about sports as being a microcosm of life. That's what makes it beautiful, right? You remove human error from that,
Great
well,
point.
then it's no longer beautiful. I referenced a Nike commercial last week, right? I referenced the first person Nike commercial. Now I'm going to reference
Yeah.
one called The Beautiful Game, right? And you go and you see the world of soccer has been taken over by robots, and they've replaced all the best players in the world. Well, what happens is it's emotionless. There's no mistakes.
Yep.
Okay, mistakes create emotion. It creates anger. It creates belief. It creates fear. It
It's what
creates all
makes
of this. That is what sports is about. Now
yeah,
you
that's
try
what
to
makes it
remove
fun to
that.
watch.
You can try to remove that, but what's the
Yeah.
point of that?
No, that's
Right?
that's a really good point. There's no way you want to take the emotion out of it because that's what makes sports exciting. And I almost think fans would be more bored with sports if they couldn't get mad at refs or, judge calls. There wouldn't be as big of rivalries. A lot of rivalries are based around moments where there was a bad call or a call that didn't go one way or the other. So I do agree with you that I think, specifically in soccer, I don't think that's ever really going to happen. But I just thought it was an interesting question that
Definitely interesting. I'm curious to
that
hear
came
your
to my
thoughts on
mind.
it in baseball, and then I have another thought in reference to something else.
So I think it's going to happen, but I don't want it to happen. I have a whole conspiracy about it, but I don't that I don't want to share because I don't want to limit myself from working certain places. We'll say that.
Paul doesn't want
Um,
the MLB on his back.
yeah, I'll tell you off air. Um,
I love it. I love it.
I do have a conspiracy about that, but I really think, like you said, you can't take the human emotion out of it. You have to. You were talking about having somebody to talk to the captains. My mind went to having somebody to talk to the managers. You see managers get angry with calls a lot, and having somebody that can just is really good with interpersonal skills that can just talk them down from that instead of them literally yelling at a computer. That's super useful compared to, I mean, what the alternative would be. Obviously, like, they just wouldn't have anybody to talk to, and then they're sending official complaints to the league, and the league doesn't want to deal with that. um, so I think human refs have to stay. I
Absolutely
think
agree.
I think technology can help refs improve, like VAR helps refs improve. We've seen that, but I don't think that technology should replace refing. And that to me is, I put down here, like in our doc, what would be the disadvantage of it. That's the disadvantage to me, is you don't have somebody to have a conversation with, like you were saying.
Absolutely.
Um,
Well said.
and the advantage of it, like, it makes it more accurate. Yeah, we all get that. But how do we trade accuracy for entertainment?
Hmm.
And how do we balance that? Which do we want? If you're on the side of the fan who gets the call, then you want accuracy. But if you're on the side, of the side that doesn't get the call, you want accuracy. But if you're on the side that does get the call, you're just entertained, you know? Yeah, I think refs have to stay as human refs.
I agree.
I don't I
It
don't
brought me a
think
thought of the
I
best
don't think
soccer
the
ref of all
Premier League
time.
is going to get rid of
If you were
VAR.
to Google Pierluigi Collina, you see a
Okay.
person that communicates pure emotion, passion, but also ownership through his eyes, right? And not every referee has that. Mr. Collina clearly did. But you could clearly see through the photo, he's a badass, right? And I think he brought a certain hierarchy to the game that people respect him. And referees need that.
Yeah.
VAR, to a certain extent, and what Wolves has pointed out, hurts people's respecting of referees.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah,
it
definitely.
makes referees less confident and question their decisions. You look in, and I encourage everyone to Google Pierluigi Collina right now. You look in his eyes. That man is not questioning a single thing in his head. He is the most confident referee I've ever
Yeah.
seen. Right?
They have to be confident. I mean, they get judged so harshly now. I mean, there's sites where you can go on for literally any sport and check the accuracy of the refs in that sport. At least at the pro level, there is. I don't know about the college level if they have that implemented or not.
No
But
matter what, you know for a fact at the college level, everybody in the locker room was talking about the referee's shitty decision that just went against your team.
oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, for
Yeah,
sure. We've both experienced that.
we've seen it at D3 hundreds of times.
Absolutely.
Um, I mean, that's part of the game. That's part of sports, and I think it always will be. So I just wanted to get the official quote from Wolverhampton to be out there. So they said there's no blame to be placed. We are all just looking for the best possible outcome for football, and all stakeholders have been working hard to try and make the introduction of additional technology a success. However, after 5 seasons of VAR in the Premier League, it is time for a constructive and critical debate on its future. Our position is that the price we are paying for a small increase in accuracy is at odds with the spirit of our game, and as we result, we should remove it from the 24-25 season onwards. So, I mean, a lot of the complaints, like you said, were based around impact on goal celebrations, frustration and confusion inside stadiums due to lengthy VR check, hostile atmosphere among the fans, and booing of the Premier League anthem and chants against VAR, and then using VAR for calls that weren't originally intended for the use. So, I mean, some of those issues, yeah, I could see that being an issue, but I don't think the VAR being taken away is going to control the amount of fan uproar there is over a call. There's always been spectator uproar on controversial calls. So I don't think that's going to solve that. Maybe you can solve the goal celebrations. I mean, that makes sense. And the length of games, like you mentioned earlier, the 10, 15-minute add ons at the end. That makes sense. But there has to be a way to improve the technology to make it more efficient before just stripping it away in the first place. And I think that's the approach that the Prem should take, is really trying to improve the efficiency of it and seeing how they can make the process faster, whether it's maybe not even necessarily having a human on the other end review it. You know what I mean? Just having the computer make the decision for them. Maybe they can use AI to have an algorithm to say, is this call correct or not? Yes or no. And then that happens way faster. Then the video gets sent to the review room. The people in the review room review it and then get back to the refs on field. Maybe, AI can cut out the middleman and make the whole process faster. So I think that's where their focus should be versus stripping it away entirely.
Agreed. I think what Wolves are asking for here is a conversation, right? We're just wanting to talk about it. It does need some streamlining because it does hurt the visual enjoyment of the sport, in my opinion, to some extent. But it does create massive benefits, right? And it is an interesting conversation. As kind of you said, I've been listening to the 48 Laws of Power, right? Understanding the psyche of people and of fans and people who have fandom and cult-like following, they're always looking for something to hate. There's always something that makes them mad, always something that
Yeah.
frustrates them, that ticks them off, and they just want to talk about that, right? And you have to give people the room and the freedom to go and have that discussion. And often that's at the cost and at the respectfully disgraceful conversation about the referee, because it's just a unifying factor that everyone gets mad at.
Yeah.
But that's also part of the referee's job. They know that's in the job description. And we've talked about referee mismanagement, referee mishandling from fans and from players, and mistreatment. And it is a really hard role to be in, because you know for a fact.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why we're seeing in the U.S. a referee shortage.
Massively.
Did you take the class with Gary Stevens about basically how to be an athletic director? Do you remember talking about how much of a referee shortage there was after COVID and why?
Definitely, we definitely talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it as strongly in that class as I did in Sport and American Society, just because of the year that it was. Because I was with Gary in the beginning of 2021.
Okay, yeah. So I took that class last spring.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to me that a lot of the refs have cited basically the fact that they don't want to travel to get yelled at by parents. You know, they after COVID realized they can just work from home and save themselves gas money and make more money doing other things. Refs are not well paid. Well, I mean, obviously professional refs are, but like if you go down the levels, refs are not well paid. They have to travel far and they have to deal with a lot of crap from people. That doesn't sound like a job that's appealing to a lot of folks now. So it does make it tough when the crop of refs is significantly reduced to have high quality refs, right? It's kind of you have to pick from what's left, and hopefully the best of the best are still great, and I'm sure they are, but maybe not as much as they used to be, right? Because there's less of a sample size to pick from. It's like and a good analogy would be like how a Division One high school has more kids, so they're going to have a better sports team because they can pick from more kids. Versus like a Division Three high school team is not going to have as many kids, so they're not going to have as big of a pool of talent to pick from. So I just think that's a good analogy to the whole reffing situation in general, and it can explain why VAR is going to be so helpful going forward. Because as that crop of refs gets smaller and smaller, the more they're going to need assistance.
Well said. Yeah, and very true. And that might not be necessarily the problem in the Premier League, because the Premier League
probably not in the Prem League. No.
With the cost of VAR also being one of Wolves' concerns, right? The referees are paid really well, and you're paying a lot of money for VAR. It is an expensive service because you have to set up the office and all this stuff. But if it was something that could be streamlined and could be established at sporting venues and events throughout the world in youth sports, etc., it could be something massive value that is helping referees be better and create better training.
I agree.
Also wanted to give a quick shout out to Mr. Gary Stevens, the icon. We love you. And his recent book, Stolen Seasons, that he released. If you're looking for
I need to read that.
Gary's a great guy. He's an icon at Thornton Academy, so very proud to be connected with him, and somebody that we both been blessed to learn from. So I wanted to give him a quick shout out.
Yeah, one of my favorite professors at my time at St. Joe's for sure.
Ditto.
All right. Do you have anything else on the Prem and the VAR, or do you want to move on?
Just people are always looking for people to hate. They're always looking for something to be mad at. Right now, VAR is one of those things, and just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Not something that we think the Prem's going to remove, and hopefully.
No. We'll update you guys as the vote happens.
And learn from and implement better as we continue this conversation, right? It's conversations that need to be had, and having critical conversations like this without removing things but improving them is a great way to improve leagues. So I like.
Yeah, and obviously we'll keep the viewers updated as that progresses and they vote on that next month.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's transition to the WNBA. We were talking a lot about VAR. Let's talk a little bit about VR.
Hey, good transition, Paul. Yes, I love it.
So Meta is going to broadcast 20 WNBA games on their VR headsets, virtual reality headsets this year. They did this last year. There are going to be 5 games in 180-degree virtual reality. So the biggest thing to me is that it provides another viewing option for people if you don't want to pay to go in the stadium, which I think is kind of huge. And obviously we can talk about this at like WNBA tickets aren't super expensive. Now you can get it for like you can get a better experience or less of the price. If you look at you can watch 20 games for buying the price of buying a headset versus paying the ticket prices to go to 20 games. Obviously the headset's going to be cheaper. So To me, it's a cost efficiency thing for a viewer. Even though MetaQuest headsets are very expensive, and that's kind of the downside. But I think they'll get less expensive as time goes on, because they'll become more commonplace. And in no way is that a reflection on the WNBA, because it's still a smart partnership for them, because they're giving their fans another viewing option. What do you think about that whole situation?
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting to me. I was looking it up and kind of reading it this morning, and I'm thinking like, oh, I really wonder because they had it in the 2023 season as well, same number of games. I was trying to find their viewership numbers in this specific medium, and I couldn't
Yeah,
find it. Um,
probably because it hasn't been started tracked yet.
I really
Hasn't
think
started
it's
to be
something
tracked
that
yet.
is an interesting idea, and we've talked about it. This creates a really interesting experience, especially when you get into the meta world and can fans interact with each other. Because
Yeah.
when it's just viewership, my worry is, well, I'm paying $200 for the headset because I just googled the cost of a MetaQuest headset. 200 bucks
Okay.
isn't bad if you're going to use it for different things too, or even right. But for me, it's a new viewing medium, which is exciting. It's innovative, which is good on the WNBA for being involved with. A lot of people from the WNBA, met a couple people, and it really what they're focused on is innovative measures and creating a lot of really exciting things for women's sports going forwards. How can they
Yeah.
be an innovator and create something special and create a unique product that people are going to want to invest in women's sports and
Yeah,
invest
they're
in
trying to
that
be a
more
leader
deeply,
for women's
right?
sports.
They're trying to be a leader, and they're doing really well in it, in my opinion. They've done a lot of good work. I love what the Connecticut Suns are doing. They've done a lot of great stuff. I follow them quite closely, being from Connecticut myself, right? But the simple fact is, this is a medium that people haven't tapped in with yet, in my opinion. Um,
No, not fully.
Possibly because of the cost of entry, possibly because the interest isn't there yet, or possibly because the interest isn't there at all. And I really don't know which one it is yet.
I think it's going to get there, though, as we start to see, like, as technology keeps developing, specifically with AI and what can be done to simulate different situations. Like, a person can be thrust into any situation that they want, no matter where they are through their headset. It's gonna take on. And I think the cost of entry is definitely the big thing. People view it as expensive, even though it is less expensive than it used to be 3-4 years ago. And I mean, think about, you said $200. Think about what you would spend on 20 games. If you went to 20 WNBA games, you would probably spend more than $200.
Absolutely,
So it
20,
would,
20 games courtside on top of that, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah,
You
you're
can
spending a
choose
lot
to
more than that,
sit where you want.
especially if you're trying to watch per se the Indiana Fever right now, which is possibly the hottest team in the WNBA due to Caitlin
Caitlin
Clark,
Clark, yeah.
right? As we talk about, right, the cost of a let's see, what's the cost of a courtside ticket?
So only, interestingly, to that point, only 2 Indiana Fever games are going to be shown on the of the 20 broadcast on the Meta headsets. So I thought that was interesting. But I mean, she is drawing a lot of viewers for the Fever. Her debut drew 2.1 million viewers across all ESPN platforms on last Tuesday. So
Absolutely, right? Their
that's the most
experience
that's the most viewers ever for ESPN for WNBA.
says a lot, right? The
Yeah.
courtside ticket price for that debut game for Caitlin Clark, $2,500.
Yeah,
So, right,
right.
you're getting a courtside experience at a tenth of the price,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
in reality does create a lot of value.
Yeah, it's a great deal. If you think about it, I think that's a really smart investment on their part, and I think that's how they should market it to their viewers, or well, yeah, to their fan base, is an investment in the game, because now you don't have to come to the stadium to enjoy an in-stadium experience. Um, and if they could somehow set up like camera viewpoints, I don't know if they're going to do like a simulation. Obviously, neither of us have either done this, right? But I wonder if it's going to be like a camera viewpoint, or if it's going to be AI generated, where it's a simulated of what you would be seeing on the floor and how they're going to treat the live experience. So I think that'll be interesting to see. And I mean, I have a MetaQuest headset. Maybe I'll try to check this out if I can figure out how to do this. Because I think it would be definitely interesting to be able to sit courtside or sit wherever you want to, and then that changes the whole viewing experience. So, just a little quote from the article that we read. Fans can sit courtside virtually or have an immersive experience that includes mini games and trivia alongside the action. I think the trivia is a really cool piece of this
Agreed.
because not like that's a huge piece of fan engagement right there. Not only are you saying, hey, you can watch wherever you want to for, like you said, a tenth of the price, but you can also learn more about our game and the history of our game and the history of the players on our teams while you're doing it. So I think that's a really interesting piece for them, fan engagement wise, that is going to lead to more revenue because people are going to be interested more in the players' stories, their backgrounds. It's going to be more likely to have them buy merchandise of those players. So I think that will directly lead to an increase in sales for them. The one question I wanted to ask is, do you think if this blows up and a lot of people start watching on the MetaQuest headsets and courtside, do you think attendance will go down in person?
And that's the concern, right? 'Cause in my opinion, nothing could ever beat that in-person experience, right? You're in
I agree.
person,
I just went to
surrounded
the
by
Celtics game on Wednesday.
10,000 other fans. You were just at a
Completely
Celtics game,
different.
right?
Completely
17,000 other
different.
fans there, I'm sure, right? Where you're experiencing excitement and emotion, and it's a group think, right? And we talk about psychology a decent bit on this, right? And really, what it is understanding the psyche of a fan. And you can't create that same experience from sitting in your living room. It just isn't. You
No,
don't feel the same emotion in your heart. You don't feel the same connectedness. But I think you may
you can't
still
replicate the atmosphere.
exactly right. So I don't think you'd see a drop off. But if we were to go into a COVID type situation, I think this could be of massive value. And I also was thinking, like, what a great decision from the league. They aren't losing their other media deals. They aren't
No,
exclusively streaming these games on MetaQuest. They're
no.
streaming these games everywhere else at the same time. They're getting to stream them on Meta, creating more opportunity for interaction in a unique way without losing any cost. Why wouldn't they do that? Right?
Yeah, there's really no downside to it, other than whatever they paid to partner with Meta. But I think it'll be worth their investment. I think there will be a good return on investment as a partnership there.
Absolutely.
And I think, honestly, I think Caitlin Clark is going to be a huge part of it because she's driving the WNBA viewing so much right now. A lot of the young stars are, I mean, that just came out of college. A lot of the rookies are going to blow up. Obviously, Angel Reese, AJ Wilson, a bunch of others that I can't remember the names of right now. Paige Buchers soon. Um, so like they're already changing the WNBA, and if you can have a virtual experience where you can sit courtside to watch them without needing to go, I mean, because obviously there aren't a lot of WNBA teams or fans who may not know where the closest WNBA team are can just simply do it through their headset, right? It
Absolutely.
makes there's a lot of ease of access to it, to this move for the fans. So I think that was my biggest takeaway from this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think it's ease of access. It's a smart move from the league. And for me, really thinking about the value this brings to a fan who's abroad who could really realistically probably never go to a WNBA game, but now has the opportunity to have that experience, right? So say a fan
That's what I was trying to say, but you said it a lot better than I did.
We're on the same page. We're thinking the same wavelength. So like, what about a women's basketball fan from France, a young girl who's a fan of Victor Wembanyama but wants to watch women's basketball and get inspired by that?
It's
What
a
a
great
great
example.
opportunity for her to go watch a player like Caitlin Clark in that way that she could never watch her before. Now,
It's a great example.
right, it's a price of entry that may be high, but I think there's unspeakable value to that a lot of parents would want to attach to and a lot of young fans would want to attach to. And
I
that's really
agree.
where the WNBA is going to see a lot of growth if they're trying to attack these international markets. So really intelligent from them. Love this move. There's no downside to it, right? Other than the fact
No.
that they're choosing to partner with Meta over somebody like an Oculus, but really Meta's the leader of the game, so I don't see a worry there, right? Meta's leading the internet living space, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Right, where it really is a unique opportunity for fans and teams alike to leverage new opportunities. Now, do we think it's going to beat or displace the in-person experience? No. Do we think it's going to defeat traditional mediums? No. Like I
I
can
think it
see
will just
myself,
add to it.
right? I can see myself far more wanting to sit down with a pair of Google glasses, right? That I forget what they're called, but you know what I'm talking about. right? And I can sit there and I can have the game sitting a little bit off of my eyes, sitting here because it's projecting it in front of me while I'm on the shitter, right? that's just a funny example. But
Yeah.
for me personally, I have really sensitive eyes. I can't wear headsets like that. I would really enjoy just the simple glasses, right? I would prefer watching.
They can make that an option too, I'm sure.
And I think that's something that
If
we
this
need to
is
see.
if this is super successful, they'll probably continue on the innovation track, and that's the next step forward.
Absolutely.
Is making it glasses versus a whole headset, to make it kind of more, I guess, easily wearable. Is
Well,
where I was
I
going. I
don't. I
can't
don't
really
look
find a
like
better
I'm
term.
in. I don't know what. I don't like the idea of
An
wearing the headset.
alternate
It
world.
scares me.
I mean, just from personal experience from having one, it is super immersive. Like you really can't see what's around you other than you draw boundaries on the floor, and when you're getting close to a boundary, it shows you the boundary.
Right.
But other than that, you are in your own world. You can't see anything from outside. So, like, I wondered what that would look like being in a stadium. On my headset, I have a baseball training game where you can like be in a stadium and you look around. And it's like the whole stadium. I wondered what that would be like with a live event.
Right.
I'm sure that would completely change the experience.
Well, I'm sure it looks awesome. It is an awesome experience.
Yeah.
For me, that's something I would really mentally struggle with, and I would have to do some mental restructuring to be ready for it.
I'm sure there must be like some adaptive glasses for it. Like
Oh yeah.
somebody has to make those. And that would be a smart move for the WNBA to invest in too, is to say, hey, you want to watch our games, buy not only this, but if you have like eye sensitivity or migraines would be a big problem with this type of thing, buy these glasses to help you watch it, or even some special contacts or something. You know what I mean? There's ways to solve issues to make it accessible to everybody.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our sports quote of the weeks. So my sports quote of the week, obviously a lot of Boston sports playoffs right now, so I had to go with something related to that. Bruins game tonight, game 6, down 3-2, fighting for their lives. Celtics just advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. Super excited for them. But this quote was from Bruins goalie Jeremy Swayman after game 5. I just can't thank my mentors enough for showing me the way and replacing that word nervous with excited and just being me and embracing moments. So, man, how powerful is that? Not only in athletics, but also in your career, treating nervous feelings as opportunities to be excited about. What do you think about that? Because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of thoughts on that, especially as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is the type of moment where we describe the feeling as people of butterflies. Right?
Yeah.
And you don't really know what butterflies mean. They mean excitement. They mean you're nervous. They mean you're in this wishy-washy feeling. But really what it is how can I visualize this opportunity and how can I be thankful for it and say, and I think you know what I want to say.
Yeah.
F it, we ball. And absolutely run
Yeah.
have a blast, right? How can you go and take that and say, well, I have this unique opportunity. Why should I be afraid of anything? And for me, I got this weird milestone in my life. I've just completed my quote unquote college career. I might go back to school, but looking at it, it's like, wow, I'm at the first stage of my life where I don't feel absolutely totally confident on exactly what I should do right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have a million people saying, Zach, this is the right thing, the right choice, the right decision in this place, in this moment, in this time. For the first time in 16 years of my life, and
it's on
really
you.
for the first time in my cognitive life.
Yeah.
So thinking of this quote, it's like, one, I could be in absolute dread and nervousness and afraid of that fact. And part of me is. But I could also be in a state of absolute excitement. Holy moly, the sky's the limit.
There's so many possibilities for you.
What can I leverage? What can I find? Who can I be thankful to? Who can I be thankful for? Who can I go and have a glass of scotch with and say thank you?
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I can finally say that as it's now my 21st birthday. So,
yeah. I was going to mention that, but you got it.
But, right, absolutely powerful statement, absolutely an amazing mindset, and something that's absolutely something that everyone should pick up on. right? This is a
I
mindset
agree.
you should have. Moments of fear, moments of worry. How can you go and translate it to something that you're going to say, I can wake up, I can put a smile on my face and take this with energy. And
Like
it's
he said, it's embracing the moment. And
absolutely.
I think that's really the best way to live in the present is you gotta think about, okay, what am I doing right now? How could I be doing it better? And what do I want to do right now to make my future better? Right.
Mm,
And that to me is embracing the moment. It's thinking not only about the past and the future, but also thinking about how can I be a better version of myself right now. Obviously, you get help. You get help along the way. It's not all on you. Like he was thanking his mentors, but it is a little bit of self-driven thought in saying, how can I turn my nervousness about the opportunities that lie ahead of me into excitement, and how can I really maximize what I get out of those opportunities, and what opportunities can I create for myself. So I think not only is that important in athletics, we like growing up and coming into college, trying to play in college, that kind of stuff, but specifically in work life, in professional life, you really have to think about, what can I be doing better? What can my next opportunity be? And how can I get there? And embracing that moment of saying, maybe I'm not where I want to be, but I know I can get there, and planning out how to do it.
And well said. It is absolutely a powerful quote. It makes me think of, and it's something that I saw on the internet recently. If you haven't heard of, and I'm going to use this as kind of like, I don't believe in Greek mythology, so we're going to call it a myth. The Roman god. Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, traditions, and endings, is depicted to have two faces, right? You have one face of fear and nervousness. You have a face of excitement. How can you go and say, I can look in the past, I can look to the future, and take those two emotions and say, how can I take a moment and make it really special?
Yeah,
Look to your past, look to your future, and say, this is where I am in the present, and make something unique out of it. It is an
that's
absolutely powerful quote. So great
yeah,
pick, Paul. Great pick.
that's that's awesome. Um, so with that bit of wisdom, do you want to move on to yours?
Yes, mine a little bit less wise, a little bit less emotional, a little bit less in here. But I wanted to. I mentioned it earlier, talking about the Real Madrid Bayern Munich match and speaking about VAR and all of this. I wanted to quote Thomas Tuchel in reference to that disallowed Matthias de Ligt goal. Um, Tuchel said it was a disastrous decision from the linesman and the referee. It feels almost like a betrayal in the end because of that decision. It was a huge fight. We left everything on the pitch. We were almost there. Now we have to say congratulations, Real Madrid. The linesman said sorry. The referee does not have to flag. He sees that we win the second ball. He sees that we got a shot away, he added. To whistle is a very, very bad decision. It's against the rules, and it's a bad decision from both of them. It's a disaster, tough to swallow, but it's the way it is. I thought this applied to the VAR conversation. It is in place, and if it wasn't, this conversation isn't valid, as I said before. Its installment has placed doubt and fear in the mind of referee who are calling games, almost killing a certain part of the game, as Wolves would argue. Although it does bring
Yeah.
value, we see Wolves' argument, and this Bayern
Do
situation
you
is a great example.
do you think in that specific case the referee second guessed themselves after seeing the VAR?
Uh, so here's the thing: they didn't get the chance to see the VAR. So the way
Oh,
VAR has to work, and this is why the story is really interesting. The linesman is supposed to let the play on. And there's a lot of arguments as to specifically offsides
but he whistled
where
it dead.
where you raise the flag, play's dead. Nothing can happen. Even if you're offside by a toe, it's a call of the referee and he often kills the play. VAR has helped a lot in allowing play to play on, proper offsides calls, etc. It's one of the most difficult things to call in refereeing, and in this case, the player actually was onside, and it ended up being a rightful goal that was disallowed because of refereeing on-field error and mistakes. But to the simplest point, as Wolves would argue, well, that's part of the game. Why are we arguing that the referee shouldn't raise the flag if he thinks the player's offside? And
Yeah,
I just thought it was an interesting point to add to the conversation of it's a
yeah,
challenge
definitely
decision,
super
and
relevant.
referees deserve to have confidence in their decision making. They deserve to have the eyes of the referee I mentioned earlier today. I hate it because his name always.
I wish I could remember it. I don't, to be honest.
I'm on
But
it.
yeah, no,
I
I
wish he
agree
could
with
have
you.
the eyes of Pierluigi Collina, right? Of absolute confidence in every decision he's making, and referees today can't have that.
Yeah. like we said, it's a tool that can help them, but it's also a tool that can take a little bit of their skills away in a certain sense. Takes the ability to really back up their decision and have a firm stance away in some regards. And I think a lot of refs need a firm stance on their decision because they're just doing the best with the information that they saw, right? We talked about the human error. Mistakes are going to happen, but if you really think about it, like the amount of calls that they make, the accuracy rate is pretty good.
It's nuts.
Like most people, like a vast majority of the population, would not be able to do the job as well as they do. So as much as we crap on refs, and I feel like we have a little bit today, I want to give some credit to them because that's one of the hardest jobs in the world. It is. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world. The amount of scrutiny that they're under, and the amount of things that they get tracked on, the amount of performance that goes into it, and they have to be in great shape, honestly, as older officials to even keep up with the athletes in the first place. So, I just want to give a little credit to them before we end that discussion.
Agreed, and I
All
think
right.
well said. It
Do you have
simply is that point.
Do you have anything else for today, or? Yeah. All right. So
Watch highlights of Pierluigi Collina. See the emotion and the
yeah,
pure fear he puts into man.
yeah. Go enjoy your 21st. Have a great rest of your day, man. And we will see you guys next week.